Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, today I'm going to be talking about a game that I was hesitant at first to purchase. Let's face it, there hasn't been a really great Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy IX. Sure, Final Fantasy X, 12, and even 13 too have been passable, but to really suck me into their world and want me to keep playing these games after I have finished, these games have not done that. And Square Enix knows the fan base for this game's series is getting kind of tired of being disappointed. Final Fantasy XIII was supposed to usher in a new generation of Final Fantasy games. What we got was a trilogy of games with confusing battle systems, absolutely no exploration for the first one, and games whose story mistook being convoluted for being epic. Part of that disaster was it was supposed to be a connected series called the Crystal Novella series, and next to 13 was another game, Versus 13. With so many disappointed fans and another Square Enix series gaining popularity called Kingdom Hearts, it kinda looked like Versus 13 was going to be cancelled after several years of Square Enix just not talking about it very much. We also had a trilogy with the original 13, which for the most part was pretty much god-awful. Then a few years ago, during Sony's E3 press conference, they showed another trailer for Versus 13, coming this time to the PS4 and Xbox One instead of the 360 and PS3. At the end, though, they said that times had changed and to be prepared for the 15th coming, and boom, the title screen changed to show that it was now going to be called Final Fantasy XV. At that point, I finally started to care about what I was assuming to be another turd from Square Enix. And Square Enix treated this game properly. It really has tried to hype this thing up more than any other mainstream games before it. We've had a realistic CGI action movie plus an anime to really help hype up these characters and the plot of this game. So how is this game? Is it worth your time? Is Final Fantasy going to save itself from the bin of mediocrity? Or is this just another disappointment? Let's you and me find out. Since this is an RPG, I'm going to blather on about this game's story and my critique of it in another video, but I will say this, if you're expecting some sort of great epic storyline in this game, you're going to be disappointed. Hey, it's way better than you. Get back in the corner with Mega Man X7 and Bayou Billy and the other games that I would prefer to think didn't exist. Anyways, all you need to know is that the story follows a young hero prince named Noctis who has to stop an evil empire who has invaded his homeland by picking up a few family treasures and making a pact with a few of the local deities. When the story shows up, it's not bad, it's just kind of there, which is what I think Square Enix meant it to be. There's a reason why they changed that opening quite a bit from the E3 trailer that I saw and put those events in its own movies, Final Fantasy Kingslave, and then did a few other changes. They want the player to be focusing on Noctis' journey and not his destination. There's a lot of focus on the four main heroes and the events they run to with a lot of quips. For the most part, this whole game's plot is basically a road trip movie with fantasy elements. It's not bad, it's just nothing memorable in the story itself. It focuses on the gameplay, which I think a lot of people will consider to be refreshing, considering just how many cutscenes that Final Fantasy loves to cram into people's faces, so having less cutscenes is a definite improvement in the game. Just some of the plot and characters suffer for it. The gameplay in this game is rather hard to describe. People have described it as Kingdom Hearts, which is a decent enough description, but I like to think of it as Tales of Zestiria, the best parts of Tales of Zestiria, meets Red Dead Redemption, and no, I'm not kidding here. It's an open world sandbox with a JRPG combat and level up system attached to it. So let's get started with the main part, the exploration. For most of your journey, you will be getting around in a car known as the Regalia and hitting the road of Noctis' kingdoms. During these trips, you can let Ignis drive, or you can let Noctis drive, or in some cases for side trips for a low price of 10 gil, just skip the driving altogether. Anyways, driving around, even if it's on autopilot, is kind of fun just looking around at all the sights of the kingdom and the way it's woven together. I kind of enjoyed that part, but I can understand a lot of people don't like this auto cruise. People who would rather be into the gameplay. Me, the sights of the kingdom were enough for me to tolerate it. But it's even more fun when you can finally get out and start beating up monsters, and there are just tons of pit stops to get this done. There are dozens of just small outposts on the road for Noctis to stop at, each offering their own array of characters to interact with and side quests for Noctis to accomplish for extra experience points and gil. The most notable is the diners, where you can stop in and take on bounties in order to do hunts that can get you a crazy amount of gil for accomplishing, not to mention plenty of just bonus things to find by looking around. It's just hard not to get lost and enjoy the world of Final Fantasy XV. Which brings us to the battle system, which I can say is definitely inspired by Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts' battle system was deeper than what it was. Like Kingdom Hearts, it's an incredibly fast action game where you press circle to attack enemies. However, you're rewarded for doing things with your comrades, whether it's sneaking up on an opponent or striking them at the same time. Noctis can also warp in to strike. The options for fast strategy are certainly there, and they're a ton of fun. Bonuses can be achieved for hitting enemies in the back or linking with a comrade. Also, Noctis can equip multiple weapons to himself and switch at any time during combos. All of this is a rewarding experience. If Noctis runs out of HP, he can use potions to heal himself or have one of his comrades help him out, but remain in danger state too long and it's game over. This usually doesn't happen too often if you go in with a well-stocked pile of elixirs and potions. The AI, though, can be a bit worthless. With the help, I got my HP knocked down to 0 while standing by one of the other characters, only to have that character yell at another character across the battlefield to come and heal me. Can't stop for a second to heal me yourself, you jerk! As far as customization goes, you gain EXP to level up, but the EXP won't count until you stop at an inn to rest. The more you pay for an inn, the higher EXP bonuses can go. Leveling up earns you AP, which you can use on a grid to power up your character. It's simple enough, and some of the bonuses have some pretty cool effects. The whole system has been done in the likes of Final Fantasy X, but here it works out just a little bit better. So what's on the bad side? Well, the world is big and you will be driving around in that car a lot. While there is a warp option to get you back to areas to complete those side quests, and it's relatively cheap to use, and if you feel like venturing around, you're going to be using that car. And yet, driving around the car gets about as boring as Zelda's Wind Waker sailing. On top of that, there's a few bugs in the game when I played through it. 2 times in dungeons, I was stopped by them. One time was in the dungeon where I had to go through this tight passage, but was stopped by a jump scare and some imps. The imps had to be defeated in order to get through. Unfortunately, because I ran away due to being low on health or just a bug in general, not all of them went through the passage. So when I returned to try to kill them, that last little bastard wouldn't come through the passage so I could kill him, so the game wouldn't let me through. I had to exit and restart the dungeon entirely. Another similar incident happened in another one. This time I jumped over an obstacle I didn't know was there, and I could jump over it. The rest of the cast couldn't show up, and in order to kill this Marlboro, you need to have their support to do some story-based tactic cutscene. Both times pissed me off and wasted a lot of my time. I'd rather be just out adventuring than doing some of these rather boring and dark dungeons. And finally, Final Fantasy XV is the polar opposite of 13 in a bad way. Remember how 13 was linear for like 20 hours and then opened up just a bit towards the end when you finally got to Pulse? Final Fantasy XV is the exact opposite. It begins with a wide open world that 2/3 of the game is set in. And then once you get all your items, you need to get a boat running so you can get to the Empire, and you still take your car, but the game changes after that. Now, I was originally we're taking the car, that means I get another huge kingdom to explore. Oh yeah. After this huge world I just traveled, I don't care if the Empire is just a fraction of the size, this is going to be a real treat. And then your journey to the Empire happens entirely by train that moves in one direction, no joking. While you can always journey back to Noctis Kingdom whenever you rest at an inn, as far as the quest goes, the game gets really linear towards the end, which is a bit of a disappointment. Now, don't take my complaints that this game is bad. The overworld is huge and is worth exploring. It's the first time in a long time that I've wanted to go back into an RPG just to explore the world some more. And while the last few stages are disappointing, it doesn't take away from the grandeur that came before it. And while the whole visit in the dreams is a bit of a cop-out, it still means you're able to go back and revisit and shore up some side quests whenever you want. Now, the graphics in this game are pretty good. The cutscenes look nice, and just the way the world looks is gorgeous. While driving around the car can get dull sometimes, it's not for the absence of eye candy, as you can see miles in the distance and see landmarks in Noctis' homeland. From a desert, mountains, forests, and even a volcano area, there's just a lot to see in this world, and they all look pretty good, despite a few age spots here and there. Sometimes the game will slow down for a bit. For the most part, it does run pretty solid. Character models, however, are not so good. Don't get me wrong, on the main 4 character models, they look pretty good and up to date. But some of the side characters, like Iris here, not so much. Her almost doll-like look would fit in fine for a late PlayStation 2 game or even an early PS3 game. But she looks like she's really a decade out of place when it comes to the rest of the characters, and she's somewhat of a main side character that you run into often. So whenever you encounter characters like her, it really does take you out of the experience, unfortunately. As far as the sound and voice acting goes, it's really pretty good, as we have a really competent team of voice actors doing the job, from the overly energetic Prompto to the cunning and wisecracking Ignis to the stoic GLaDOS and the emo Noctis. All have good voices, and the way they relay their lines to each other, it's obviously these characters are friends. All the side characters have decent voices too, and the actors that are assigned to them are good as well. Music-wise, the soundtrack is definitely different. I do like Yoko Shimura's work on the Kingdom Hearts series. It fits there. Not as much here. A few good soundtracks, but nothing really epic or memorable in comparison to some of the classic Final Fantasy works. What surprised me here is most JRPGs open up with an irritating Japanese pop song that is either sung in Japanese in a way that makes us Westerners cringed, or dubbed into English, which makes us cringe even more. Final Fantasy XV opens up, and its main title song is Stand By Me. Yeah, never thought I would hear a 1950s doo-wop song that's also more well known for being in a Stephen King movie, by the title opening up to a Final Fantasy game. But hey, there's a first time for everything, and the song does fit the theme of the game. I don't generally do my reviews on really brand new games, but rather on games that I got that are kind of old in my collection, or games I got dirt cheap for $20 or less off places like Steam. I don't usually do new games because I don't buy a lot of my games at $60 price tag, because I don't think they're worth the price oftentimes when they're new. So I did buy this game new. Did it deliver? Yeah, I think it gives you your $60 worth and more, and by now the price has probably dropped quite a bit, unless you're waiting for that PC expansion that just was announced recently. The overworld is huge, the characters are enjoyable, even if the plot is sometimes not, and the exploration and just searching around each area is just addictive. Well, folks, that's all for this video. I thank you for watching. If you'd like, I would love to have you as a subscriber to my channel and have you as a member of my community. This is Tommy signing out.